Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, Steve is here with another NATO The Cold War Goes Hot video for you today. I'm back after a bit of a hiatus. Life gets that way, um, but so it be, and so it is, and here we are with the War of Nerves scenario set up here on the map, and we're going to get things underway pretty quickly here. I'm not going to do too much introduction that it's going to create its own video. We're really going to just try to play it through. At this point, I've been waiting so long to get this started and going that I just want to get playing and playing through. I'm not going to detail everything that happens in this campaign. Um, I just don't want to use up that much video time, but I will try to explain things along the way. The War of Nerve scenario is sort of the campaign scenario for this game package. And so it involves the most strategic decisions, and then we'll break into a scenario that will look something either like the surprise scenario or the extended build-up scenario based on how well the Warsaw Pact player does their sneaky stuff to prepare for an invasion. And we're going to play through that as the very first thing. This scenario is structured that way, where there's peace turns where we're attempting to make those sort of mobilization actions, hoping it does not tip off NATO. And then at some point across the peace turns, war will break out and we will play 14 turns or less of the actual war. So there's a lot of little nuances that are going to come into that, but we're set up and ready to go. I should also point out this is 1983. I chose that with the idea that, if the Warsaw Pact was going to try to do some sneaky stuff and do an invasion, they might as well do it when maybe NATO is at its least prepared. And my understanding is the 1989 force pool for NATO is much better, or at least a little better. So this is the concept. I'm going to be an opportunistic Warsaw Pact player in 1983 and try to do some things to invade Germany, West Germany, and do my business. Now I've been trying to. It's funny. This is happening at a good time. I'm trying to listen to '80s music. I am happening to read some '80s cyberpunk novels, good old classic cyberpunk novels. Um, Kind of coincidentally right now, so this is all kind of coming together as a nice '80s vibe. The '80s are the decade from which I hail, so I can't say too much about how hard I'm vibing for the '80s, but I'm gonna have to be strategic in my music decisions because I don't really like Madonna. So as a person, she's probably fine, but as music, I'm not a Madonna music fan. So we're gonna have to lean real hard into Metallica, '80s Metallica, Megadeth, Ozzy Osbourne, the whole deal. We'll have some fun. At least I'll be having fun jamming to that when I'm not recording because I don't want to put copyrighted music in the video. Anyway, so yeah, here we're going to be. Now you can see the actual setup, which is based on the strategic scenario originating, has units kind of spread out. So while just a little bit off camera, uh, the Denmark units are set up about where they were for our Baltap scenario, Baltic approaches. You can see all these varied colors of different NATO units. Dutch, Netherlands units here. There's some Belgians strewn about. You can see some French. We have some Americans in place. West German, some British. And then for Warsaw Pact, there are some East German units here. There's some Czech units over this way, lots of Soviets otherwise. But they're all spread out because all of these units are considered to be in their sort of barrack locations. They're not necessarily fully mobilized. This is just their sort of peacetime um, areas of which they are housed and based at, which means they are not all the way formed up along the border for combat, and that is actually going to be one of the decisions that we'll be navigating through the pre-war build-up period. So one of the things that is interesting is if you were to look at your reinforcement schedules, and I'll just show the NATO one for fun. There's reinforcements through game turns, blah 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 blah. And then there's some down here that are for game turn 18, game turn 19, 21, 22, 23, 24. The war scenarios last 14 turns, so you might be asking, like, well, what game turn 18, 19, 21, how do those even come into the game? Well, it depends on mobilization. So during the pre-war, the peace time of the War of Nerve scenario, you can begin mobilizing on a particular turn, and then you count each day, a turn is a day, to determine when those guys are going to come in. So if we started mobilizing, let's just say on peace turn one, and we have 10 peace turns um, before war starts, and war starts on technically day 11, well, then 7 days later, it would be total game turn 18, and we'd get reinforcements for game turn 18. I hope that makes sense. It makes sense as I am explaining it to, I have it in my head. I understand what that means. For you, that might be a little harder to grasp. It's just that there's a metric counted from when mobilization begins, when your reinforcement schedule actually starts, not necessarily on war turn one. And again, this is going to come into our strategic decision making along the way. Now, how does this really work? Well, without reiterating all the rules, it's not particularly tricky. Um, if I can find the right chart, I can show you. So here's the war preparation. So basically, the Warsaw Pact player is going to make a decision and is going to increase tension and implement a game effect. I'm not going to run through all of them, but mobilization gets you counting for your reinforcements. Maneuvers allow some movement of units around the map. So, eventually, like, block maneuvers would be really nice to do. We could start to bring some units closer to the border, but not right up to the border. Um, Aviation will affect our sort of air war charts. Border assembly will allow units to move right up to the border, but that will trigger hostilities if we were to do that as the Warsaw Pact player. We can also just declare war at any point we feel comfortable. Um, so it's almost like a checklist, but you choose which of these things you're going to implement. Obviously, some have a greater impact on tension than others. And what will happen is when you pick an option, you will then roll two dice, and you want to be, as the Warsaw Pact player anyway, wanting to roll above the tension level, because that means that the NATO alert level hasn't increased. So you're trying to get away with doing this checklist of things before the NATO player is allowed to start making any sort of response preparations, basically. And we look at that on the NATO alert level chart. So this is where you would see, if we rolled underneath tension, the NATO alert level would increase from 1 to 2, and really nothing changes. So you kind of get like one freebie die roll failure. But then as it gets to level 3 and 4, you can see we start to get activations. More clear, the error and interception tables get worse for the Warsaw Pact player. And finally up here, it's like the NATO forces are clearly much more capable. So when I look at this, and if I'm playing really directly from the Warsaw Pact player perspective for this, I think the cutoff point is I do not want to go to alert level 4, if nothing else, because we want the surprise effect. So the most we want NATO alerted is alert level 3. If we get unlucky and we get to alert level 3, I'm gonna very likely decide to declare war and get going so that we maintain surprise. I think that's going to be really important to make the headway we need to make. If we're at level 4, 5, or 6, things are going to be just so much worse for us. So I don't want to let that happen. In terms of my strategy for what I'm going to want to do to make the headway that I want, I'm going to try to do the lower tension level actions first. So I think what I'd like to do is escalate frontal aviation both times. I have to do one and then the other. And you can do, I think, one a turn, but we get a lot of peace turns to play with. Get these done, and then possibly the block maneuvers. And if we still are not increasing alertness, if we're lucky, then I can pile on these much more expensive tension value items like mobilization, and so on. It may mean that we don't get some units in the game at all, but I would rather be in a really good position on the map on turn one than to potentially have to waste precious war turns trying to get units to the front lines. I want to kind of have that squared away as much as possible. Now, just doing block maneuvers doesn't allow us to get all the way up uh, to the border, but it puts us close enough that I would feel pretty comfortable. And if at that point we're still not triggering a lot of NATO alertness, we would go ahead and do the border assembly, which would allow us to move all the way up to the border. And at that point, we would have crossed everything off our list that we really wanted, and we'd be in a much better position to succeed against the NATO defense. So that's my thinking, being a sneaky Soviet, on how we're going to want to do this. Now, the rules for this whole scenario, there are extra rules that you have to parse and process. They're actually all in the playbook. So if you like to read the rule book by PDF when you're uh, taking care of bodily functions or you're doing other stuff and you don't have your book handy and you want to read the PDF, unfortunately, I don't think the PDF of the playbook is actually available. But the rules are, well, they feel like a lot just looking at them. I don't think they're that intense if you just kind of follow the sequence of play for the peace turns and try to execute. I think that's a worthwhile thing to process. I don't necessarily like the way that the War of Nerves rules are laid out, just because they feel a little scattered for what you want to be trying to do. But they're not too bad. They're not too bad. So, in looking at that, this is the first thing we're going to do here. We're going to start our peacetime sequence of play. We're just going to jump right in, guys. I'm not going to try to explain much more than that. I think that the rules are swell enough that this is going to be followable. First thing, joint status phase. The Warsaw player flips the game turn marker to its war. Yeah, well, we don't really need to worry about that too much. If we're going to declare war, we would do it now. I'm not going to declare war. Not going to do that. And that's just, yeah, that's not happening. Otherwise, we're going to advance the game turn marker one box on the game turn track to mark the new peace turn. So, okay, well, we're going to, right off, just barely off camera, is the game turn track. We're just going to go ahead and increase that peace turn one. Easy peasy. Regardless of the decision here, any mobilization turn markers on the track are advanced one box. So if we were doing mobilizations, we have a number of markers here that will denote that. We would add them to the turn track to help us know what turn that is occurring and how that is progressing. I think there's I think the mnemonic there is going to work different than the game probably intends. There might be easier ways to handle this that folks will figure out, but I'll leave that to you. For each mobilization turn marker a player has on the game turn track, you consult your strategic surprise reinforcement schedule and you do the thing. Well, we have not done any of that. We have not declared preparation measure called Soviets Reinforce Eastern Europe, which would give us supply points and chemical munitions points. We've not done any of that, so we're just going to keep on moving. And now we get to the war preparation phase. So on peace turn one, which is now, the Warsaw player back must choose one preparation measure. On each subsequent peace turn, you may, but is not required to, choose another one until there are none left to choose. If you declare a preparation measure, you will place that marker for that measure on the tension track, a number of boxes up from the last marker, and then equal to the tension level printed on the marker, and just move the tension marker up. So to help keep you in line with what has caused the tension marker to increase, and by how many boxes. Okay. So there's also potentially a Warsaw Pact movement phase if we've selected any of the preparation measures that allows for movement. We're not going to be doing that. So this very first turn, and in alignment with my strategy, I'm going to be choosing the aviation. Now, here's my thinking on this. These aviation-related measures are cheap in terms of tension, which means I don't have to really worry about getting them out of the way, and that will be an investment early on to make sure that we can have better air performance. Those interception, the tables we use, I would much rather be playing the game with the best tables possible, because that will enable us to operate more coherently with our airlift, sea lift, all that kind of stuff. I would much rather have that the best it could be, and it's not really going to cost us anything major to do it. So I think that's what we're going to do. That is going to be my selection, and so I can look and see. So if we were not going to pick this at all, then the Warsaw player would always roll air points on the extended build-up air campaign table, which is the worst one. The first time that the Warsaw player pack declares this measure, we're going to place the pack nerves air marker on the game turn track in the box for place of the. Okay, let's find that. Packed air nerves marker, like that guy. Nerves air marker on the game turn track in the box for the game turn 3 turns ahead of the current turn. Okay, so we will do that. Easy. If the Warsaw player declares war on the turn where the marker is located, or any turn after that, we will roll on the War of Nerves air campaign table to determine air points. Once the game turn marker has advanced up to or past the game turn box where the Nerves air marker is located, we can escalate a second and final time. So we're not going to worry about the rest of that for now. Just say I do want to do the second one if we can, but I am not going to be able to do that until peace turn 4. So we're going to have to kind of wait that out. I think I'm obviously going to aim to choose some additional options before that kicks in. I am going to put, let's see, where is the marker? Escalate the frontal aviation marker here on the turn track, or the tension level track, I should say, and that increases the tension level to 2. It starts at 1. So it is now up to 2 because we've done that aviation. So a little bit of investment. It's going to take a few turns to take effect, but we're basically prepping our fighters, our bombers. Our Air Force is being put on some level of Soviet alertness to work. Yeah, doing that. So now, with that complete, we bounce over to the NATO player turn. I could flip this. Okay, it's the NATO game turn. I don't feel the need to do that every time, at least for right now. So we're going to roll 2 dice. I need to find my dice here. And we'll roll the 2 dice. We don't want to roll a 2. Whoa, I rolled a 3. Oh, yikes. Okay, we're good. We're still okay. If the combined dice result is equal to or less than the current tension level, we would move the alert marker up 1 box on the track. And right now, there's no movement, so we are functionally done. See, just like that. We're already done with the first peace turn. So we have some goodness there. The die roll was awfully low. I think that is sort of the scary thing. So my thought of, hey, we're going to get a lot done, could be I'm not going to be so lucky. So we'll go ahead, game turn 2, moving that up, and we're going to have to make a decision here. Now, I want to choose, again, a cheap one that's not going to provide a lot of tension, but will give us some level of benefits. So again, there's block maneuvers. Alternatively, I could do East German maneuvers. I think block maneuvers might be the best. But if you see here, there's a note for block maneuvers too. It's a +1 if East German maneuvers already chosen, otherwise a +2. Um, so I don't know if I want to increase. I don't know if I want to increase that so much so soon. So I'm thinking maybe I just do the East German one. Um, if we pick the East German maneuvers, the Warsaw Pact player may activate all units, both Soviet and East Germany, belonging to one front um, in East Germany, either the Northeast German front or the South East German front, and that's going to be based on the color coding of the units, just FYI. This includes any East German reserve reinforcements belonging to that front which have been placed on the map. These units may move normally, except that they cannot end their movement within 3 hexes of an Iron Curtain hex side, and they cannot leave East Germany. That means we can't be messing around down in the Czech Republic, or Czechoslovakia, I guess I should say. Activated units that never move are allowed to remain in their starting positions within 3 hexes. Okay, so those guys along the border, we would leave them there, but anyone behind, we would want to move them up. I definitely could see the NEGF being a really good choice here, so that we can pull a lot of those units up closer to the border and be able to operate well. Um, and then the other front in East Germany will remain inactive until we were to do block maneuvers, border assembly, or war. Now, alternatively, and this would just be, making it up to 2. If we did block maneuvers, we could activate all Soviet and East German units in East Germany and all Soviet Union units, but we can't do the Czechs. Can't do them. No Czech units in Czechoslovakia, but all Soviet units in Czechoslovakia. In addition, all active units in East Germany and Czechoslovakia may move normally, except that 1, they cannot end within 3 hexes of an Iron Curtain hex side, and 2, they cannot cross national borders. So, for instance, no unit in East Germany can enter Czechoslovakia, and vice versa. Units that never move are allowed to remain in their starting hex, while block maneuvers does not by itself activate any Czech units. All Czech units that are activated separately as a result of the Warsaw Pact player declaring minor ally mobilization may move after block maneuvers have been declared. There is no requirement to declare East German maneuvers before block maneuvers can be declared. Okay, so in that case, here's my thinking, guys. I think I'm going to go ahead. I could wait. I could just wait for some time to pass before I do this, but I think we're going to go ahead and do block maneuvers. Let's just get everybody moving, and that will get us time that if we had to do something, we could do it. So I'm going to take a, where is it now? The block maneuvers. We're going to put that. Now this puts us all the way up at tension level 4 already, which is iffy. It is iffy. And before we do any other things, we can actually now go do the movement. So that is sort of the key thing here is because we've done that, we now can begin to move around the map. So yeah, activate all Soviet and East German units in East Germany and all Soviet units in Czechoslovakia. In addition, all active units. Yeah, okay. Which means in our sequence of play here now, so while we did select that, this is our first opportunity. We can conduct a normal movement phase with all active units eligible to move, except that no unit, blah, 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 blah. And let's see, if the Warsaw Pact player has declared border assembly, which we haven't, that would allow everyone to move normal movement with all active units. move those units anywhere in the country they start in, and move HQ units by March movement this single turn. But then that's going to cause war, and we're not doing that. But this was just fine. I think this is the right one for us. So let me take care of the block maneuvers for the Soviet, and you're going to see the map is going to look way different at that point when we're done. So let me do the cut here. Okay, maybe that's not the most dramatic change, but it is a change. So units are moving. I am going to leave a few stronger units around Berlin because I do expect and desire to take Berlin. I don't want to leave it just hanging behind and potentially being a nuisance later. So I'm going to leave some units behind to take care of that. But you can see I do have some units moved up. The interesting thing is there is a national boundary here for Poland, and there's a handful of units here. I cannot move those guys because they would want to cross a national border, and I can't really do that. So technically, even the only unit that I really could move was this guy, and I can't move him again because that'd be crossing a national boundary with Poland. So, still not a bad result in terms of movement. I do think on the next turn there is some additional movement. I don't quite have the units where I want them to be, but I can kind of frame that up over these peace turns because, again, I can do general maneuvers with at least East Germans and the Soviets in East Germany. The thing is, having to stay out of 3 hexes of the this sort of orange border you can see. That's the Iron Curtain. You count out like, okay, 1, 2, 3. That is still, 1, 2, 3. I can sit right out here. 1, 2, 3. I can sit here. I can't get any closer. So the bend of the border actually matters a fair bit here. And in terms of figuring out like where do I want those guys to be, and then even on a full movement when they can move, how far can they really go? Now we're going to get to the NATO side of the turn. So now what I don't want to do is roll a 4 or less on the 2 dice, but we're going to see 4 or less on the 2 dice. What do we get? We got a 4 again. Wow. Okay. Well, that is going to increase the NATO alert level to 2. Now, again, I'm not going to show the chart. That doesn't really affect a whole lot. That's an okay one to get at this point. But I don't want it to increase anymore, and it's only going to get harder at this point. So my desire to use the slower impacting options, I really don't have that many slow options left to even rely upon at this point because I've had to make the picks that I just made. So like already, I'm feeling not good. I don't want any more things to kick up at this point. So we've done block maneuvers, we've done aviation. That means we're going to go into peace turn 3. And here's the question: do I try to do any more? Do I start mobilization? I don't want any more. I think I need a freeze. I don't want to do anything more right now. So we're not going to take any preparation measures. I'm going to wait until the next turn when we can increase our air and just hope that we don't roll like we've been rolling, which has been terrible. The NATO forces are very alert, so we're going to do some more movement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to move this guy up to Leipzig. These guys are as close as I can even reasonably allow them to be. 1, 2, 3. So some of these guys could maybe move forward a little bit like that. We're still 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 from the border. These guys are as close as they can really get. These guys could move up a little bit more. Or wait, no, they can't. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, they're stuck there. They're stuck there. I do want to move this HQ down. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got a nice HQ support going there. We're going to move this HQ 1, 2, 3, and nope, 1, 2, 3. So he's got to stay there. These guys can't really move because they started there. 1, 2, 3. Most I can maybe do is I can shift one guy up like that. Goes 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 started there, I think. So let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there's not a lot more movement I can do with these maneuvers right now. So because I want to keep some of these guys situated here. Now I might want to move. Maybe I'll put that guy there and let that be enough for the moment. I think that's reasonable. So we'll try. Now we're going to roll the die again, and we don't want a 4 or less. All right, that time the NATO rolled high, so tension remains at 4. We're going to go into peace turn 4. So now we're going to have our air take effect, which is just, now we know that we're good there. And for this next action, we're going to do the second one. So the second time that the Warsaw Pact player declares this measure, he places the Pact surprise air marker on the game turn track in the box for the game turn 3 turns ahead. So we're doing this on turn 4, so we're going to put this on turn 7 down here. So we don't want war to happen until at least peace turn 7 at this point, if we can help it. Yeah. So now we're going to put that next marker. Let's see, where did it go? Here it is. So now this is going to make tension 5. Do we need to do any more maneuvering right now? The only thing I can think of would be to stick these guys 1, 2, 3. Maybe we have a heavier hand over here, and get the HQ to where we're going to drive that northeast position. So that little things, nothing major. And I'm not sure if I should be sending these guys further north or not. I mean, I'm really just kind of feeling like I'm playing it by ear, but I don't want a particular sector to be denuded of forces. So we're doing more maneuvers, no big deal. And now we're going to have the die roll for peace turn 4 with a tension level of 5, which is actually starting to get pretty dangerous. We got a 7, so we are fine there. We're moving on to peace turn 5. Do we want to raise? Now's the question of, do we want there to be mobilization? And we have a choice here, because it's not just, it's Soviet mobilization, which is worth 2, or it's Warsaw Pact minor ally mobilization, which is worth 2. I think when I look at the overall reinforcements, there is actually a lot more reinforcements that come in as minor pact allies. That might actually be a better one to pick. So if I look at this, East German, Czech, and Polish reinforcements, and like I said, there's just a lot more over the life of the game for those guys. So I think if I'm going to do one, see, let's assume we do it, and then we have more escalations. Um, oh, this measure cannot be declared until a turn after Soviet mobilization. So we've got to do Soviet mobilization anyway. All right, well, we'll go ahead and do that. So we're going to do Soviet mobilization. So we are going to put, I feel like this is the better way to do this mnemonically is I'm going to put the Soviet turn of mobilization on the one track and just remember to increase it uh, every turn. And so we're gonna do that. Yeesh, yeesh. Okay, I had a slight misunderstanding. So the Soviet turn mobilization marker is on the 0 part of the game turn track, and as the turns roll on, that is when we'll get those reinforcements. Because the Soviets are activated, I can bring those units in just like they were reinforcements. I don't have to put them in a strategic reserve box. Um, I think we'll play through. So okay, we've had to do Soviet mobilization. We can't do the Warsaw Pact mobilization until after this. So we're just kind of eating crap on this one, guys. So we're doing that. I don't think I'm going to do much else in terms of movement at this point. I think we're fine where we're at, and we're going to go ahead and kick it back to the NATO player to roll the dice, and we're going to roll. We don't want a 7. We had to increase, again, the tension up to 7 now because that was a 2 tension option. And at this point, we do want to get that going. So we're going to do it. Rolling 2 dice, we want to roll 8 or higher. We're kind of at the point where on 2d6, right, 7's your average result. So on average, the NATO alert level is going to go up. 5. So yes, the NATO alert level now goes to where we at? 3, which means this is not what the Warsaw Pact player wanted. It means that the air campaign table is going to get a bit better for NATO, and that's not good. And the first turn of activation is going to be full tactical. This is actually really bad, and now I'm wondering if I shouldn't just declare war as we go into this turn 6, and we move our other Soviet turn mobilization marker. We're going to get some reinforcements, which are these guys, which are decent units. So as it stands right now, I want that air, but it's very likely that we're going to increase the alert level. But if I just wait one more turn, if I don't take any other actions, maybe we'll get lucky. We won't increase alert level, and then we'll have our air surprise. So I don't know, guys. What do you think? If we don't take anything, I really would have wanted to get. The other mobilization, but I think I don't want the allies to get to alert level 4. So we're going to place these 3 reinforcements. I'm going to take no option. Movement's not going to be a big deal. Wherever these guys go isn't going to matter. I'm just going to roll the dice now. We don't want a 7. And we get exactly a 7. We get exactly a 7. So, unfortunately, the allies get to go to alert level 4 anyway, much to my chagrin. And we're going to get up to peace turn 7. Soviet turn of mobilization 2, we're going to get some additional units, which are largely in the flavor of some HQs you can see here. And this will be probably the turn that we declare war. So turn 7, and as long as we're declaring war on the same turn as where our air surprise marker is, we will have at least that much for us. I'm going to double check that. Declares war on the turn where the marker is located. We will roll on the strategic surprise air campaign to determine our air points for the Warsaw Pact player each turn. This definitely feels like, yeah, we're going to declare war. So let me work out the reinforcement stuff, because we've got to get those placed before we do much else. For peace turn 6, and then I've got these peace turn 7 guys that are coming in. But we're gonna have to reset up the system a little bit. So let me do a quick cut here, guys. Okay, so we're all straightened out here. So the war turn 1 is going to be where we're going to leave off, or the beginning for the next video. But I just want to show. So in terms of the game turn track, we have the game marker goes back to turn 1. Our Soviet turn mobilization is up to 2. The other mobilization markers get added to game turn space 0. So Pact Ally 0, NATO mobilization 0. So this is their effective mobilization levels. And so as the turns move on, and it's going to be nice that they're like a little cluster together. Everything's going to shift one forward throughout the rest of the game, which means that really the Soviets aren't even going to get that much more reinforcements than they otherwise would have, which is a little bit of a shame. So that was, I guess the penalty of me rolling so not good for the Soviets, really, on the NATO alert. And everything else, once we got up to tension level 7, it was only going to be a matter of time, and it was only going to get worse and worse. So as it stands right now, I would say, while I think my preparation measure strategy was a sound one for the Soviets, the die rolls just did not go our way by and large, and it forced us to go to war. If I had waited any more, at this point, it would have just gotten worse and worse and worse. So while, yeah, it would have been nice to do the Soviet reinforcements measurement and gotten the rest of these items done, the die rolls just went against us. And at this point, we're going to be more likely than not to increase the NATO alert level for every peace turn that we go. And if we were to let the NATO alert level get up to 5 or 6, we would just be in deep trouble, I think, for the rest of the game. That would have enabled a lot more for the NATO player to be able to do. As it stands right now, we didn't let the alert level reach 5, which means that let's see. Yeah, so there's they didn't get any pre-movement, border assembly didn't get to happen, so there's still going to be, the NATO forces will have an opportunity to respond to the declaration of war, but it definitely did not go as well for the Soviets as I was hoping. The critical thing, and it just got to the point where I failed in my hope to not reach alert level 4, which is what we're at. The distinction between 3 and 4, right? It's all the same, except surprise is not in effect. That was the big loss to me. So while the NATO mobilization is just starting and there's still no fortified hexes, those were just things to deal with for 4 and 5. We have also allowed the NATO air campaign to be at the War of Nerves, which is the middle result. It would have been nice to keep them at surprise, but I was willing to accept an alert level 3. It's the same in alert level 4. The full tactical for NATO first activation Um, that's not so great, but um, well, it is what it is. The fact that we lost Surprise is what hurts. That hurts me a lot. I feel like because those shifts just help so much in those opening phases to really crack stuff open and be effective. Now we're simply not going to be able to do that, and that to me is a big bummer. Um, so that sucks. That sucks. The weird thing is going to be um, that we're going to have different tables rolling here for interception as well as air points. So the Soviets are still making out okay because I invested and I waited to declare war until we got all of our air stuff situated. So the Warsaw Pact Air Force is as prepared and mobilized and ready to go as we could have made it, which means that they will be rolling wherever it matters for air points and for interception stuff on the surprise chart, which just to show that like it is significantly better than every other option, right? Like the numbers just work out much better. So being able to operate on the surprise, that's going to be pretty important. So that's going to be a nice advantage throughout the war turns that the Warsaw Pact got that. Now, the NATO chart, instead of using surprise, actually gets to use nerves, which is again a little bit better. You try to look at the inverse here of how the numbers work. The interception table is a little bit better than surprise. Um, the one thing is, it's just funny how it works. Like 2d6, it just seems like for whatever reason the NATO is just worse for so many reasons. I'm not sure why that is. It just feels like they have worse numbers. You would think maybe it wouldn't work that way, but yeah. I'll have to look at this. I'm wondering if maybe I'm reading this wrong. The yellow surprise symbol is used for all interception attempts against U.S. Yeah, against them. So this is like if a NATO unit is going to be intercepted, you use this table, and it seems like they're worse off than Warsaw no matter what. But we get to use the nerves column. So it's the middle of the road. Would build up have been nice, sure, but I think the NATO player is happy to at least be on the nerves and not the surprise table. So what do we think of this? One, just to wrap up this video, one, I think this sort of pushing your luck mechanic is pretty interesting. Obviously, you can get hosed, and you can kind of get hosed a little bit. And I could see why you would maybe want to start mobilization first, expecting that you get a freebie. Um, and we're going to have to see whether or not the early move maneuvers that we got were going to be any effective. Because with the full tactical movement for NATO, like, I don't know, maybe a lot of these preparatory measures that we made as the Soviets are actually not going to pay off that well. And maybe my strategy was a flawed one. It felt like it was right, but maybe we'll find over the course of the scenario that it actually wasn't worthwhile to do it the way that I did it. Either way, I was hoping maybe to push peace for a little bit longer so we could get some of those other things done, and we're just not doing that. So we're kind of having to declare war even earlier than I would have wanted. We didn't get to move our Czech units around at all, really. We just didn't have the ability to do that. So I, I think in terms of the sneaky maneuvers, we'll call this a Soviet push or loss. I did not achieve exactly what I wanted, and we're leaving things on the table. And I actually had to declare war almost out of duress because I tried to do some stuff. The NATO alert level was now consistently going to be rising, and um, I would have preferred not to declare war on this turn, but I had to. So if I, as the Soviet player, the Warsaw Pact player, I have to declare war because I don't want it to get worse. I think that means I underperformed the sneaky war of nerves. I lost the war of nerves. I've kind of had a snap um, when I didn't want to, but to salvage the situation. So that's an interesting tone to start the campaign off of. It is trying to do that. So that much is I think an interesting set of mechanics here to contemplate and to work through. So I'm going to call the video here, guys. So in the next video, we will do the war turn one, the movement of NATO, and all that kind of kickoff stuff. But the peace turns are over. What, 7 turns of peace, or well, really 6 turns of peace before the war kicks off. And now we're going to have at least, well, at most, I should say, at most 14 war turns to cover. I will probably aim to cover them in not excruciating detail just because that would take forever, guys, and I don't want it to take forever. I want to kind of work my way through and have some fun and do it for fun, not just to record and show online. So maybe I'll do a couple turns per video, and this will be a few more videos before we're done. So we'll see you in the next one, guys. I'm glad to be back recording as I can. We'll see you in the next video. Take care. Keep on gaming. See you in the next one.